We have back on the channel the one and only Brian Yam, supplements compliance expert. So, in this video, I'm going to cover the new updates, what is brand new in terms of what Amazon is going to require if you are a supplements company and you are going to be selling on Amazon. Then I'm going to kick it off to Brian. He's going to go over some of the most common mistakes that you must need to make sure that you avoid. And then Amazon expert Dave Seibert, my business partner over at AMC. He's going to talk about some of the most common questions that supplement startups ask us as they become clients and come into AMC to hire us for Amazon management. Brian, you want to do a quick intro on your end, who you are, what you do, and all that?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Brian Yam. I've been in the supplement space and the compliance, like regulatory affairs, quality assurance since 2004. So I've been doing this for a while. I'm a consulting company, Blue Ocean Regulatory. We've got our YouTube channel called Mighty Startup. I have the pleasure of doing a couple videos with Riley as well. We're here to educate the entrepreneurs, the future, all the brands of the world, right? Who's that next generation of leader? We want to get you early and just let you know that there's this whole compliance thing that's involved for supplements. I think there's this perception that supplements aren't regulated. That's not true. There's a lot of regulations for supplements. I think the issue is it's just not well enforced. There's a lot of bad players out there, but I also know that there's a lot of good players as well. And they want to do it the right way. They want to protect their business as they're growing. That's what we do. We want to help them, play by the rules, know what the rules are, know what your risks are. I know some brands want to push the boundaries a little bit more than others, and that's fine. But we just want to make sure that you, as a seller, know what the risks are. I know we're speaking in the context of Amazon today. We look at it not just Amazon, but outside of Amazon as well, just because that's just the reality of it. You've got competitors, you've got lawyers, you've got other online distributors, retailers, brick and mortar, all these other variables that are at play. And I'm assuming that a lot of these brands want to go into those markets. So that's what we do. Yeah, yeah, we've been trying to make this whole compliance topic as simple as
Yeah.
possible and make it easy for people to understand and comply.
So let me cover real quick kind of the updates of the compliance rules, aka how to get ungated in Amazon. And by the way, if you want to get access to my entire Miro board here, it's got all my playbooks in it. Check this out, Dave. Updated this. You can access this with the link in the description, and it's got the kind of step-by-step compliance rules. So I'll just skip to basically what has changed. And I will direct you to this page right here. This is the official Amazon dietary supplements policy page. And you should read this if you're a business owner. But basically, Amazon, it's a new paragraph that they launched that they updated just a couple months ago. So, as part of our ongoing efforts to enhance product compliance and safety, you must work with a third party testing, inspection, and certification (TIC) service provider to either test your product or validate existing testing documents for all ASINs receiving notice. Okay, so that's kind of been the story for the past couple years. What has changed though is there used to be a manage your compliance section in Seller Central. Now you're just going to go into account health at the top of Seller Central and you're going to scroll down and you're going to click on food and product safety issues. And then you're going to see a policy compliance section here. And all of your ASINs that are have a notification to upload lab testing, you will find here. This is a client of ours that already did it. So here are their products, and we've kind of already did this. So if you see them here in open, you will click view, and a little menu pops out from the right, and you can see ours is already approved because we already did this. So it's actually quite simple. It's easier than it was before. This is a good update. You just click verify your product right there, and it has a list of these certified TI. So there's 8 of them now, whereas last year there was only 3. I say go Eurofins because they're the gold standard. I actually heard about that from a supplements seller friend years ago. Brian, do you have any
Yeah,
opinion on
I
this?
I
Like,
I
who should people
I
choose?
do. I do. I think if you're able to, I don't know if the system allows you, if you can get multiple quotes, I believe it will allow you to. I would start there.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know the Eurofins brand carries a lot of weight. I will say that they're not perfect. And so I think it's worth getting other quotes from other labs. There are plenty of other good ones, certified silicers on there, like SGS. They're all in my world, very well regarded, UL. So don't be afraid to click on those. I totally understand the brand recognition of Eurofins. I have seen Eurofins mess up testing before,
Mm.
but like any other lab. So if there's a price, cost savings by going to another lab, start there. It also comes down to the type of product and ingredients you have. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I'm sure
Yeah,
others may
sounds
disagree.
good. Amazon actually has a thing where you can get quotes. Oh yeah, it's right here. So you click verify your product and you click instructions to request quotes from multiple providers and you download an Excel template right there. Have you seen that?
I have not, but
Okay.
I know some clients that have gotten quotes, and I've seen some wild swings in prices. And I think
Mm,
sometimes do an error of how they assess the products, but
mm.
it's still worth it. Still worth
Okay.
trying.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not affiliated with Eurofins or anyone, and neither are you. So yeah, you can download this little sheet template, and I already looked at it. It's quite complicated. I can't open it right now to my browser, but yeah, download that, and it's got the instructions to boom, send out an email to all of them. Makes sense, right? Competition, have everyone quote, and then take your pick. Is it like should they go with if it were you, would you just go with the cheapest one, or like, I mean, or what? Any reason why you wouldn't just go with the cheapest one?
No, I would if cash is the issue, I think that would be fine.
Yeah.
These are all like fairly well-known labs, so I don't think there's an issue there. The only thing that could come to mind, but it doesn't make sense in this situation, if one lab is able to test a certain ingredient and another one can't,
Mm,
and therefore, the one that can't, they're not going to charge you or quote you on that test method, and therefore it's cheaper. I think the only drawback here is that you, as a seller, you won't know if your product is, you know, good in the sense of the test results because they don't have a lab method that they can use. But other than that, I mean, for most people at this stage, it's all about cost. So if you can save yourself $500 or $1,000, you might as well take it and put that into marketing or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, Amazon's already vetted these guys. That's why they're here. So yeah, you just click there, you put in your contact information, simple form, confirm and proceed. Then it will give you a little ticket number, and then the communication opens with them. So that's basically the update for you guys. The other question is, are you going to get flagged for to upload documents right away, or when will it be? It's kind of random. We've seen some clients, they create their product and then they're selling and they haven't uploaded any lab testing and it seems to work. Some, right when you create the ASIN, it asks to upload the documents. So it's kind of random, but for all intents and purposes, have your testing ready to go because you're going to get asked usually no matter what. And then the other thing Amazon mentions in their page here is Amazon may request additional information or testing again at any time. So some sellers are speculating, could this be a yearly thing? Could it be random? We don't know. But I would just say to any startup, don't be surprised if they ask for this every year. I would say have that as a quote unquote worst case scenario. But overall, it's all about the safety and trust of customers. Amazon wants to let all the shoppers know that Amazon is on top of this shit, and whatever is on the listing on the bottle, that's what's in there because we verify and we are strict on this. So that's the big picture of Amazon's updates in terms of compliance. And if you want us to handle that for you, we specialize in working with supplements companies to help them market successfully on Amazon, sell more and be more profitable. And we work with lots of supplements startups to handle all the back end seller central shenanigans, we call it. And if you do work with us, you'll talk with Dave first. He's kind of our gatekeeper, the one and only Amazon expert extraordinaire. He's been in the Amazon game for a decade, working with lots of top 100 Amazon sellers. And so, Dave, before we get around to Brian, what are some common FAQs people should be aware of, or that you can share?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main things that people ask about when they're starting their journey is my product category safe, or is there anything I need to worry about in terms of the type of product that I'm launching? And then claims. Claims is a big one that people ask a lot about. What's okay to say? What's going to get me in trouble? Those are probably the two biggest topics that are talked about from a compliance perspective that I hear. And then, of course, the testing and clarity on okay, I've got my product, I know what I want to launch. What do I have to be thinking about in terms of testing? And what we usually tell them in that first bucket of gated categories, the three main gated categories that we encounter are fat loss supplements, any sort of performance enhancing supplements, and then
Sexual health.
yeah, T boosters, things like that. Those are probably the ones that you have to be most careful with when you're launching on Amazon. They're under the most scrutiny from Amazon, and usually you can't do advertising as well. So that's just an Amazon rule. You can't do advertising on certain supplement niches.
Yeah, it looks like right here they have this table: bodybuilding, joint health, sexual enhancement, sports nutrition, weight management must abide by these laws, regulations, and standards, NSF or equivalent. So it sounds like if you're in these categories, you got to be NSF certified. Does that basically sound right, Brian?
No, so just to clarify, so what they're saying here is that if you're in this category, any of these four categories, you're going to go through that TIC process. So you have to
Mm,
go through that third-party testing with Eurofins or whomever. You don't have to necessarily be NSF certified. We can talk
ah,
about that certification after, but it would help you for sure. Then you don't have to do that extra testing if you are NSF certified. But if not, then if you're in these categories, you're going to have to go through that extra testing. One caveat, and Amazon's been really clear about this, is that this is the categories as of today. They could flip the switch a month from now, 3 months from now, and just say, you know what, we're going to put hormone balance category in there, or we're going to put, I don't know, like fish oils in there, and we're going to test for something else. So, as a blanket statement, they're saying you should follow all the laws and regulations, but we're going to prioritize these ones under this program. But theoretically, all products are supposed to go through this program, but that's kind of how it's a nuance, but I just want people to be clear that they have that power to flip the switch and add more categories at any point. Remains to be seen. But yeah, as for NSF certification, that's a product specific exercise. I did talk about that in one of my videos. And if you do have that, you can bypass all this. And it
yeah.
doesn't just have to be NSF. I believe USP, the US Pharmacopoeia, they have a certification program that you could get for your product at the product level, and you can put the logo that your product is USP certified or NSF certified. I think I think Eurofins just came out with one as well. And if you've got that, then you would bypass all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to go. Just go get one of those badges, so to speak. Makes your product feel more premium and builds that trust as well. Okay, so that's definitely a way to go. I would say if you're a startup and you're going through this process, I would say you should consult with a supplements compliance expert, and that's why we have one on the video here today. So so Brian, yeah, you want to do the most common mistakes, pitfalls that you have seen. And also, if people want to look into the NSF certification, I would say get a consultation with Brian, like to figure out, the process of that and if it's best for your business. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so common pitfall. There's a lot here. We'll go through the first one. And this is in the context of Amazon and what we've been seeing with clients here. So the first one is, since this whole TIC program was rolled out, there have been some clients that have admitted, like, we just had to stop the business. And now we're reevaluating. We've moved away from the manufacturer. And the reason for that is ultimately the manufacturer they use, whether it's overseas and in rare cases,
Mm,
domestic, as in the US, the manufacturers just end up ghosting them. Once
mhm,
there is an issue, they don't want to work with them. They'll ignore the emails, ignore the WhatsApp messages, and as a result, they can't get new product, they can't sell, and
mm,
it's a problem.
yeah.
So, the first issue is, let's work with a manufacturer that is reputable, that's been around for a long time, that is actually willing to work with smaller brands or new brands. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that are willing to work with brands, but only if you are going to do 50,000 unit orders or 10,000 unit orders. If you've got repeating sales, sure, they'll do whatever you tell them for the most part, and you're willing to pay for it. But if you're brand new or fairly new, mm, it's harder. It's much harder to go through that. So yeah, issue number one is just making sure we're putting our money and locking our relationship in with a good manufacturer that's willing to work with you.
Yeah. And that you help companies with that too, right? Finding the right supplier for their business.
Yeah, and I will say, like, in full transparency, it's not like we can do every dosage form. Some dosage forms are really, really challenging. Gummies, for example. Everybody wants to
Mm,
do a gummy. Gummies are inherently very difficult to formulate and to put enough of the active ingredient and to test. But that said, I understand the consumer desire for gummies. But as a result, because of the competition, the lack of competition, the MOQs are really, really high. And there are some small startup manufacturers, but because they're startup, they're learning like a startup brand is. They're just going as they're going and learning as they're going, and they don't do everything properly. And when they run into some of these testing issues, they don't really have a good answer, and that's kind of where the problems come up. So yes, we
Mm.
do help pair brands up with manufacturers if it makes sense. So if it's the right dosage form, if the relationship makes sense, like so there's a little bit of a screening process, and we do that so that we're not wasting anybody's time. But yeah, certain dosage forms like gummies, for example, I just want to be very transparent. That one's going to be much harder.
Yeah.
That said,
Gotcha.
there are a couple of players that are in the network, but like I said, they're a lot more MOQ or just upfront costs or R&D costs.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. So the next one, double testing. So this is quite common, and this is a big no-no in the eyes of FDA and legal. Like if when you go through a legal issue and they do discovery, meaning that they're going to look through all your emails, your Slack messages, your servers, they'll find this stuff, and this is a big problem. So double testing is where, let's just say you tested with Amazon or Eurofins, and you got a result you didn't like. It was not to spec, and you're like, I can't send this to Amazon. So you test it again. And then maybe it got a better value, but not great. And then you test again, and then you're testing again. And now you have like multiple test results that all conflict with each other. And then finally you get one that passed. And you're like, all right, we're good. You can't do that. So in the
Mm.
world of compliance, we have to assume the bad test result is the true test result because we want to protect the consumer. Now, obviously, if it's a legitimately bad result, there's ways to prove that, but the surface level approach of let's just test everywhere is a big no-no. So we want to be careful there with double
Gotcha.
testing. All right. Okay, next one. So if we look at, well, what's the big problem here? What's the root cause of this whole testing issue and why my products fail? One of the big reasons, and it's a very, very common one, is that we as the brand or as a seller, we don't set the testing expectations with the manufacturers. A lot of the time, the conversation is very one-sided. I pay my money to the manufacturer and they're going to give me product and a C of A. But that C of A is based on test parameters, aka known as the specifications, that are set by the manufacturer. A lot of these manufacturers, even the established ones that are fairly well known in the industry, as a default specification, as a default test parameters, they use fairly lenient or loose limits, or they're not factoring in heavy metal testing, or they're not factoring in Pseudomonas testing and all these other pathogens that Amazon expects. They just go to their default process, and their default process is going to be fairly loose sometimes or limited in testing because they're trying to save on cost and they don't want the product to be held in testing, in a lab, and then your lead times take too long. So they use a pretty simplified version of your specifications. And is it to code to FDA? Sure, because FDA gives the manufacturer a lot of leeway here, but then you've got this Amazon component. And if we're not having those discussions and telling the manufacturer explicitly, no, I need to make your limits, this ppm, or you need to test Pseudomonas and this microbial, or you need to test heavy metals at this ppm. If we don't give them that explicit direction, we're not setting the expectations. We're not setting the testing expectations. So the manufacturer doesn't know, and you just throw it to a lab. It's like rolling that roulette wheel. You don't know if you're going to pass or not. And some cases you pass, other times you don't. And we talked earlier about this issue of Amazon can test at any time, right? Whether it's annually or at a different frequency. In my world, I'm hoping that that Amazon tests at a more random frequency because it's to catch this type of issue.
Yeah.
We want to make sure your product is consistent. And in order for
Yep.
it to be consistent, you got to set these specifications with the manufacturers. We can't assume that the manufacturer is going to do that for us. And it's not a difficult conversation. It's just a matter of, hey, manufacturer, show me the spec. I need to send it to my QA consultant or my legal team or whatever language you want to use. and let's review that specification together and make sure it's looking like what Amazon would accept. And it's quite revealing. Just even asking that question, sometimes the manufacturers push back and say, "Oh my gosh, well, no other brand asked us for this," or "Why do you need to see this? It's confidential." And a lot of that is just BS. If Pfizer were to work with, if Ollie were to work with them, they're going to do it. Like they're going to send you the spec, and that's because we work with a lot of these established brands that have a lot more leverage, and they know what this process is like. Any resistance is either they're a new manufacturer, they just don't know the game. Maybe there might be one or two that's legitimately genuine in the fact that no one's ever asked them for that. But for the most part, this is a very standard process. We're not asking them of the
Yeah.
world. We just want to make sure your product is set to Amazon's expectations. I think that's a very, very reasonable request.
Ask, yeah. Do your other clients sell on Amazon? Let them know we're going to be on Amazon. Let them know this is going to Amazon. Let's make sure everything
Yeah,
is right.
that's a great point. I think that just set that seed into their brain, and then
Yeah.
when you ask them for the spec, it's not a surprise. And the rationale behind changing the spec so that it matches Amazon, it's not a surprise. It all made sense with the initial story of, hey, we're selling in Amazon.
Probably let them know at your first contact. Yeah, we intend to sell on Amazon. And if they run
Yeah,
away, then could be a sign that their shit's not what it says it is. And they're using, like
that's
like
right.
these creatine gummies companies that got caught for there's no creatine in them. Like the famous case of this year could be one of those suppliers that they were getting away with it for all this time. And then
Yeah.
once they ask for the real testing, oh, they ghost you. It's probably those Chinese manufacturers that you're talking about.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised, and we got to be careful there. And yeah, so have that conversation, let them know about the Amazon, but also just to reemphasize, we do want to tell them we want to see that spec. We want to be able to modify that. Yeah, for sure. Great. All right, the next pitfall: strong claims on product labels, like very strong claims. I'm talking about, maybe addressing memory loss or boosting memory or fat melting effects. And then, of
Mm,
course, you've got your disease claims, drug claims. Now, drug claims, I think there's a very obvious, like, I think people know already. Let's not do like cancer or asthma or eczema,
yeah.
that type of thing. But
Cures
um,
cancer instantly.
yeah, like obviously
I'm
we're
just
not
kidding.
making those claims. And I think Amazon has a process to screen for these types of keywords now. But, things like boosting memory or like stopping, smoking cessation. How do I quit smoking? Another common one is hangover cures. You can't make these types of claims. These are against FDA rules. And
Yeah.
yes, you might find some products on Amazon, like we all know. There are a lot of non-compliant products on Amazon. They may have just slipped through the cracks. They have just not been caught yet. They may have been grandfathered in for all we know. But it really comes down to like us as a brand. Like, do we want to be building our product on a claim that could be at risk, right? And build this whole empire on a risky claim. I think that's the big question. I imagine that a lot don't want to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so this is another one. This is around claims on your product page on the Amazon page. So this is not on your label per se, but these are marketing copy that could push your product into that high risk category. So we talked about the joint health, the fat loss. We've seen some products that are not intended to be sports supplements. They could be like a protein powder, they could be just a simple NAC capsule, but in that marketing copy, they talk about fat loss or fat burn or building muscle. And the product doesn't look like a sports supplement. It's not branded as such. Maybe it's like catered to moms or something like that, the everyday middle-aged mom, you know what I mean? And they just decided, hey, this is a nice effect that we just found out about. Let's talk about metabolism and how it helps with that. And when you do that, it puts the seller at risk because Amazon's system, however it's working, could see that as, oh, this is a fat loss or weight loss category product, and therefore it kicks them into that other bucket of the TIC testing. Just watch out for that. That's been flagged several times. And one easy way to fix that is just to change your marketing copy and just to make sure that your marketing copy doesn't put you in that position in the first place. And also has to be said, don't do that on your label either. And even though it might look like a workout supplement product, it has, that's not the intention of it. But if we start talking about weight loss or metabolism, it could do that. And now you've got inventory that's labeled as
Yeah,
such.
on
Go
the
get it
label, be
relabeled.
ultra conservative. And on Amazon, we help our supplements compliance with the Amazon claims and keywords because there's weird keywords you might not even expect to get flagged. Like we've had multiple hangover remedy clients, and you can't even say the word anxiety because it flags it as anxiety. Like you definitely can't say the word anxiety. Like just these words. So, anyways, if for this type of stuff, this is what we help our clients with because there seems to be there's no way to surefire prevent your listing from get flagged. It seems to be random the way that Amazon's system re-indexes your listing at random times. And anytime you update your listing, maybe you haven't updated it for a few months, you changed one thing, it will re-index and it will flag a new word that the AI says. So, anyways, this whole shenanigans is what we help our clients with, folks. So if you become a client of ours, yeah, we got that covered. Don't even worry about that.
Last one, rookie labeling mistakes. So this is where we see this very common in the Amazon space where the label has blatantly got issues. It's not meeting regulatory requirements. And it could be small things, at least to the average seller. It's like, all right, so the font's not the right size, or, I'm missing the daily value, or I didn't calculate it right. And it could seem fairly innocent mistakes. It doesn't really matter. The problem is it sends the signal to people like myself, or worse, to your competitors or to a legal department, a litigator, that your brand's spanking new. And chances are, if your label is not great and you're not putting the information where it's technically required by regulation, it's screaming to me that chances are your manufacturing, your testing, your other compliance, stability, your specifications is probably all out of whack. And so you become a very easy target for these other larger established brands on Amazon. We've been seeing some of that dynamic play out where the big dog on Amazon is going after the small dogs. And typically it's because maybe the big dog got slapped. Maybe they said hangover cure at one point. They said they were, they're not allowed to do it. They got punished for it. They had to spend a ton of money to fix that. Now they're finally back on Amazon. And then 2 days later, they see this hangover cure supplement. Well, they're going to go after that brand and they're going to push all the buttons that they can possibly push within the Amazon world. And we've seen that where that smaller brand got delisted or something got flagged with them. And then after they've resolved that with Amazon comes the cease and desist letters and the legal action. And they're like, oh man, this is not what I expected. So, one easy way is to just make sure your label is looking really, really top notch from that compliance lens. So we're getting the fonts right, we're getting the placements right, we're getting the flavor language right. And now I'm kind of going into the weeds here. There's a lot of regulations. I know in this world of Amazon, we're thinking about cancer claims, drug claims, keywords, trigger words, but there's a lot more in the regulations here of, your country of origin statement, like I said, the font size, the way the supplement facts table is formatted, where you put the headers, all of these small things are actually tied into the regulations. So I don't mean to make, a small thing into a big thing, but we're starting to see this trend. And I think the goal here is like, just don't look at us. Just look at the other non-compliant brands. And I think one way for these smaller guys is to just make sure the label is looking really, really tight. So yeah, these are the common pitfalls.
Is that something you help brands with? Is their labeling? Make sure labeling is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. Like I know you guys offer that service as well. And that's fine. And it really comes down to how tight you want that label exercise to be. When we do it from that lens of not just Amazon, but this other world of retailers, brick and mortar, other online distributors, competitors, lawyers, all that stuff. And yeah, we would do the full gamut of review. We do go above and beyond what even contract manufacturers would go. We would look at your specifications. So that other document, we're looking at that at the same time. So really trying to like get a better picture of your operation, build that into the label, and then obviously letting the clients know what's going on. And, we're not the cheapest. I will say we're way cheaper than, we're half the price of a legal department trying to do that for you, but we're still competitive with other consulting firms. But, this is not a simple exercise of just like, look at the spelling mistakes. Does it match your supplement facts? It goes much deeper. It's hard to explain. One example of this would be like, I want to do a sugar-free claim. All right, well, we think, let's just look at the sugar content. Oh, I got no number. Let's just assume 0, and therefore I can say sugar-free. Or there's no sugar in the formula, therefore it's sugar-free. There's more rules around that. You have to look at the calorie content. You have to look at the definition of sugar-free. There's other footnotes from FDA they have to put on there. There's all these other nuances that's tied into these new content claims. And again, I apologize for getting into the weeds here, but I just want people to know that it's not as straightforward. Sometimes
Yeah.
as a label review that some of these manufacturers promise, but that's just the
Yeah.
reality of it. And to each their own. I know that some brands are willing to just, we're just testing the market. All good. Others are like, we've been around for a while. We got to watch our back. Let's do this properly.
Yeah. That's why I tell people, yeah, like you don't know what you don't know. Like Dave said, that's why the playbook here is consult with Brian for the compliance and the labels stuff. Even before you even find the manufacturer, I say consult with Brian and then have him along your side for the whole journey for all these steps. And then what we offer is we can offer the design and branding stuff like we do packaging design and then obviously the Amazon page design and all that, and then the Amazon backend and the marketing stuff. So we have the creative and the marketing over on our side, and then the compliance side, and the labeling side, and the legal side over on Brian's camp. So yeah, that's the
No, I
playbook, guys.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
just, I don't wanna scare anyone, and that's not the intention. It's just more of, like you said, unknown unknowns. We wanna address that, know what the risks are, and then the seller can make the decision freely. And yeah, we work with ideally, it's best to work with the clients as early as possible through that concept. We've had a couple clients come to us, and it's like they've already made the product, but the product concept itself is a disease claim, like a disease idea. And it's like, well, now you're bound by all these issues, and it's hard to market it in a compliant way. But they've already formulated it. They've already paid the deposit, or they've already manufactured or scheduled for production. And it's like, I would have saved you 50 grand if you just met me a little
yeah,
bit earlier, rejig it, the formula and the concept. It's still within the intention of the idea. And then you roll it out, and then they work with you guys, and it's just stress free. That's the
yeah.
goal, right?
So yeah, day one at idea, consult with Brian. That's a great point. You may tell them, yeah, this product is going to be a shit show. This product idea, and then maybe you have some ideas as well. So yeah, ASAP. If you're a supplement startup, consult with Brian for that stuff. Yeah, for sure. Do you want to tell people like about the SET and kind of the different services or
Sure.
packages that you offer, or yeah, what it looks like?
Yeah, so if you are brand new, if you're an entrepreneur, you're just starting out, you've never been in this industry before, you never launched a supplement before, obviously you're working with Riley and Dave. A good starting point would be our SSET or SET course. It's a supplement startup essential training course. This kind of gives people an overview of the compliance world. We try to do it in a consumer friendly way. We break it down. It's easy to understand. And this is just a culmination of all the consults we've had with a whole bunch of other brand owners or entrepreneurs, and they asking the same questions over and over and over again. And we've put it into this program, and it just walks you through, well, how do these contract manufacturers work? What's the best, testing program I should do? How do I formulate my supplements? Now, some people prefer a DIY approach, and that's what it gives them that opportunity. Others use it to understand the industry and understand how the operations work of it on the compliance side, but they still need some support and they still want to meet with us. So you can pair that up with a consult. And then from there, we don't abandon you. We can still work with you, whether that's a retainer or through some other program. But I think that's the easiest way to do it. If there are some people that are already established, they're doing a couple million a year. We do run remote Q programs for some of these brands as well, for several of them. And so we become your compliance team. We're your remote compliance team. We're reviewing your labels, working with the manufacturers, vetting them, all of that fun stuff. So just, we're there depending on what your needs are. Like I said in the past, we've got a YouTube channel if you want to just get a taste of what we're talking about, and diving into Amazon and NSF certification. We do have content there. And I'll do one more plug, and then I'll shut up. We have NSF coming onto the channel. So I've got NSF. We recorded it a couple months ago, so I just got to edit it. But we've got NSF talking about that program and
Hmm.
how to get that certification, et cetera. And I'm not getting a kickback here or anything of that nature. So at least understand what it's like to work with NSF. You don't have to go with NSF, but it's just nice to have them on the channel. And they've been in that industry for so long and have created a great
Yeah.
reputable like brand logo certification program. They've been in the industry for a long time. So yeah, it was great to talk to them. And I think a lot of people may find some value there.
I love that. It like even before getting into this, like all the top big supplements have this NSF certification label. So if you want to be a premium, then 100%. So yeah, looking forward to that video. So subscribe to Brian's channel right here. And then a link will be below as well to check out all that stuff. And in terms of the right time to engage us for Amazon, I think, Dave, would you say similar, sooner than later, if you plan to be on Amazon? Yeah.
Doesn't hurt. Yeah, like Brian said, there's situations where if you check in with our team too before you get too far down the line, there's ways that we can, identify risks, save problems, even something as simple as how you package your product and the dimensions that your packaging are could end up, you talk to us first, you could end up saving thousands and thousands of dollars. I recall a brand that if they when they were building their injection mold, if they reduced it by half an inch, and it's a totally possible thing, it would have saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. But
Yep.
they weren't aware of the Amazon packaging guidelines and the different fees and the tiers. So it doesn't hurt to come and chat with us early on in the process. But yeah, it makes sense to start working with us as soon as you're serious about Amazon and ready to get started selling on the platform.
Yeah, I would say even in the beginning of the product idea phase, because Dave's a creative as well, and he might have some opinions and ideas and maybe even red flags of your product idea as well. So I would say consult with Brian and Dave too as well if you're still in the formulation phase, because we work with tons of clients as well, and that takes kind of both minds, the compliance mind and the marketing mind, to create the winning formulation. So Dave is really attuned to like trends and like what's working out there in the sphere. So and then Brian's got his brain to that as well, but also like red flags in terms of formulation stuff and like legal and compliance. So it's both of those brains gotta come together for sure if you want a winner. So
Yeah, and that's what we see in these larger CPG brands. They've got their sales and marketing and branding arms. They create the concept, and then they're working with their legal team or compliance team, and they do it in parallel. So, and this is at the conceptual stage. It only makes sense because we don't want to go down this path where, as you said, like it's too late, past the point of no return, and now you're spending way more money than you should have.
yep. Yep. 100% makes sense. Validate it before going in. Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, links will be below. Dave, any final words for folks out there or things to add?
No, I think this is if you're a supplement brand, this is the stuff that you got to do is pre-launch. This is all of your housekeeping and making sure that you're all ready for a proper launch because brand owners can be so focused on just marketing, just sales, but forget if they tied their sneakers first before they started sprinting on the Amazon platform. So, Brian, it's great to meet you and thanks for sharing all this knowledge.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Good to meet you as well. And Riley, thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, for sure. I will end it with, some folks have asked me, should I even get into the supplements business? And I'm just Googling a chart here. The cool thing about supplements is obviously if you're getting into it, the industry is growing so fast. And I don't see it honestly slowing down anytime soon. As the consciousness of America and the world becomes more health conscious, I'm in like the point of the tip of the spear here in the health conscious world. I'm in Bali, Indonesia. Me and Brian were just talking about, and Dave's in Austin, like the supplement Liver King. Where did I just see Liver King? Oh, you had a video about that. He's in Austin, Texas, the health biohackers capital of America. The industry is continuing to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I would say 100% great time. Obviously, if you're serious to be a supplements company for the long term. Boom, mic drop right there. And we will talk to you guys later. All right.